They thought it would be a routine interview, a late-night sit-down between a controversial royal and a fearless host. But by the end, one of them would be escorted out by security. And it wouldn't be the host. What happens when a prince, raised on deference, walks into a studio where titles mean nothing? What happens when ego, legacy, and raw truth collide in front of millions? This wasn't an interview. It was a reckoning. The lights of real time with Bill Maher burned hot, like interrogation lamps, as the crew made final adjustments. The air was taut, not because of the audience, but because of who was about to walk in. Not a senator, not a celebrity, a prince. Prince Harry, the royal-turned-rebel, the man who traded centuries of tradition for freedom and controversy. Backstage, he stood before a mirror, adjusting the cuffs of his tailored navy jacket. His reflection stared back, steady and unflinching. He wasn't here to charm. He was here to be heard. His team had billed this as a chance to set the record straight. But anyone who knew, Bill Maher knew that narratives didn't survive long in that chair unless they could take the heat. At his desk, Maher glanced over his cue cards and smirked. "A prince," he muttered. "Let's see how royal the ego is tonight." The cameras rolled. The audience applauded. "Tonight," Bill began, "we have a man who walked away from Buckingham Palace, but not from the spotlight. Please welcome Prince Harry." Applause swelled, part intrigue, part tension. Harry strode onto the stage with confident precision. He nodded to the crowd, unsmiling, and took his seat opposite Maher, one leg crossed, posture relaxed, but unmistakably defensive. "Good to be here," Harry said. It wasn't warm. It wasn't cold. It was measured. Maher didn't waste time. "So, Harry," he said dryly, "how's life in exile?" The audience chuckled. Harry didn't. "It's not exile when it's your choice," he said coolly. "I left behind toxicity, not home." "Toxicity?" Maher pressed. "You mean like palaces, parades, and titles?" Harry leaned in slightly. "You'd be surprised how suffocating gold-plated cages can be, Bill." Maher chuckled. "Fair enough. Though I'd bet most of us wouldn't mind one or two of those cages." The crowd laughed again, but there was an edge now, a spark of something sharper beneath the banter. Maher shifted gears. "Let's talk about the book, Spare. You shared a lot, especially about your family. Some critics say you weaponized your trauma to sell copies. Thoughts?" Harry's jaw tightened. "I told the truth. I didn't hide behind PR teams or palace statements." Maher smiled thinly. "But you did hide behind a $100 million Netflix deal." Laughter. Harry's eyes narrowed. "Those deals fund causes, mental health, climate change. Maybe you've heard of them." "Oh, I've heard," Maher said smoothly. "I just didn't know saving the planet required quite so many private jet flights." The laughter cut deeper this time. Harry's smile vanished. "I should be flattered," he said, voice low. "You've clearly done your homework." "I always do," Bill replied. The air shifted. The warmth was gone. Maher's next question landed like a blade. "You said you wanted to protect Meghan from the media circus. But didn't you just move the circus to California?" Harry's tone dropped a register. "Meghan and I created a space where we control the message." Maher nodded, eyes glinting. "Yes, and right now you're sitting in my space, trying to control mine." A brief silence. "You invited me here, didn't you?" Harry said, his tone sharpening. "I invite people to talk, not to spin," Bill shot back. The audience felt it, the shift, the tightening of the air. Harry shifted in his seat. Bill leaned forward, elbows on the desk. "You've called out the monarchy for racism, coldness, rigidity," Bill said evenly. "Do you regret any of it?" Harry's smirk returned. "No. I said what needed to be said. And clearly people listened. Look where I am now." There it was. The first flicker of arrogance. The prince wasn't answering questions anymore. He was delivering proclamations. Bill caught it too. "Interesting," he murmured. "You left the institution, but now you're building your own. Titles, press, influence. It's like you didn't leave the palace, you just moved the furniture." That one landed. The crowd murmured, half in awe, half in disbelief. Harry didn't respond right away. He sat still, jaw tight, eyes steady. When he finally spoke, His voice had dropped to something colder. You don't understand what it's like to have your every move judged. To watch your wife be torn apart by the press. You sit behind this desk and make jokes. I lived it. And yet here you are, Bill said quietly. Still in the spotlight, still selling the story. For a moment, neither moved. The air was electric. Two men staring each other down over a table that suddenly felt like a chessboard. The interview hadn't cooled. It had evolved, from conversation to confrontation. Harry adjusted in his chair, the flicker of annoyance hardening into indignation. Bill leaned back, twirling a pen between his fingers like a blade disguised as a prop. His tone stayed casual, but his words cut clean. You know, Harry, he said, a lot of people feel bad for you. The tabloids, the paparazzi, the royal mess. But at some point, doesn't sympathy turn into exhaustion? Harry tilted his head. What's that supposed to mean? It means, Bill said, voice calm, the world's had a front row seat to your pain. Your book, your series, your podcast. But people are starting to ask, when does the healing begin? And when does the monetizing end? A ripple ran through the audience. Gasps, murmurs, a few nervous laughs. Harry's nostrils flared, but his tone stayed measured. Sharing my story isn't monetizing trauma. It's reclaiming it. Bill smiled faintly. Sure. But when Netflix pays you $100 million to reclaim it, that story comes with a price tag. Harry leaned forward, his composure thinning. Let's be clear, I didn't write Spare to make money. I wrote it because the palace wouldn't let me speak. Bill's comeback was instant. So instead, you let Penguin Random House speak for you. The audience reacted. Laughter mixed with shock. Harry's smile vanished. You're being flippant about something serious, he said coldly. Maybe because you've never had to run from paparazzi with your wife, fearing for her life. No, Bill said simply. But I've also never had a global platform and used it to settle scores. Silence. That was the moment Harry's mask cracked. Just a flicker, but enough. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. You think this is about settling scores? He said. This is about breaking cycles. Bill nodded slowly, almost admiring the defiance. Then why? He asked. Do the cycles keep getting press releases? Harry drew a steady breath. Because people like you keep asking the wrong questions. The studio seemed to hum with tension. Bill tapped his cards on the desk but didn't glance down. All right, he said at last. Then here's a different question. He looked Harry dead in the eye. Do you really believe the public owes you something? Harry blinked, caught off guard. What? You've said the public betrayed you. The media hounded you. The monarchy failed you. But do you ever stop to ask, what do you owe them? A full beat of silence followed, heavy, unbroken, charged. Harry didn't answer right away. He stared at Bill, fingers curling slightly against his knee. I owe the public honesty, he said finally. Even when that honesty paints everyone else as the villain? Bill asked. Harry's tone hardened. If the truth makes people uncomfortable, that's not my fault. Is it ever your fault then? Bill pressed, his voice suddenly sharp. The audience inhaled. A collective intake of breath. Harry sat up straighter, his composure thinning. You don't know me, he said. You don't know what I've lived through. You sit here tearing people down for ratings. I call out hypocrisy, Bill shot back. If that stings, maybe it's because it hits close. That hit home. For the first time, Harry's face flushed, not with embarrassment, but anger. He looked away, jaw tightening, the silence between them heavy. Bill didn't let up. Let's talk about Meghan. Harry turned back slowly, eyes narrowing. Careful. Bill ignored the warning. You've said she was targeted, mistreated, even driven to despair. I believe that. But do you think all her critics are just haters? Or did you both underestimate what the spotlight really meant? Harry's voice dropped an octave. You want to talk about Meghan? Then understand this. You don't get to question her resilience from behind that desk. I'm not questioning her resilience, Bill replied evenly. I'm questioning whether either of you understood what accountability looks like when you turn your lives into a brand. Harry pushed himself halfway out of his chair, the shift in energy unmistakable. His hands gripped the armrests. "We didn't turn our lives into a brand," he said. "The world did. We're just surviving it." Bill nodded, unruffled. "Then why step back into the fire?" Harry's answer came quick. "To take control of the flame." The audience reacted, hesitant applause mixed with divided murmurs. Some admired the defiance, others caught the arrogance in the delivery. Bill let the moment breathe, then spoke softly. "Control. That's the word, isn't it?" Harry didn't respond. The cameras rolled silently as the tension coiled tighter, thick and electric. This wasn't just an interview anymore. It was a battle of worlds. The studio had gone still. No more polite laughter, no more applause. Everyone felt it. Something was about to break. Prince Harry's smile was gone. Bill Maher's tone had shifted from curious to confrontational. Neither man seemed willing to yield. Bill adjusted in his seat, glanced at his notes, then ignored them. His eyes locked on Harry. "You talk about freedom," Bill said calmly, "but you live in a $14 million Montecito mansion, guarded by private security, surrounded by the same press you claim to despise. Isn't that just another palace?" Harry let out a short breath. "You think this is about money? You think because I left one institution, I'm not allowed a home? Privacy?" "I think," Bill said, his voice quiet but razor-sharp, "you want to be seen as a victim, while living as a king." Gasps rippled through the audience. The camera tightened on Harry's face, catching the twitch in his eye, the barely contained fury. "You don't know what it's like to be hunted," Harry snapped. "To watch your wife and children dragged through headlines every single day." "Then why keep feeding the machine?" Bill interrupted. "Books, documentaries, interviews. You say you want peace, but everything you do invites war." Harry went still. Too still. Then he leaned forward, eyes locked on Maher, his voice dropping to a cold, surgical edge. "You don't get it," he said. "You never did. I'm not here to please you. I'm here because I have something to say," Harry began, voice steady but eyes sharp. Bill met his gaze without blinking. "Then say it. But don't pretend it's altruism. This isn't truth-telling, it's branding." "Performance, dear," Harry's jaw tightened. "This is my life," Bill's brow arched. "And you sold it." The words landed like a hammer. The air seemed to cave in. Harry straightened, face flushing, anger flickering beneath control. "You're not a journalist," he said, his voice carrying enough to hit every microphone. "You're a cynical entertainer who gets off on humiliating people." Bill's smile thinned. His reply came low and deliberate, more dangerous than a shout. "And you're a prince who left royalty only to crown himself the martyr of modern media. Tell me, when does the curtain fall?" Harry stood. The studio murmured, an uneasy ripple through the crowd. Even the producers backstage froze, unsure whether to cut to commercial. Harry pointed at him. "You don't deserve this platform. You twist pain into punchlines and truth into narrative." Bill didn't flinch. He stayed seated, the calm in the storm. That did it. Harry turned toward the wings, waving off his team. He was already walking away before they could move. The audience watched, some embarrassed, some enthralled. Bill didn't call after him. He simply turned to camera. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said evenly, "that was Prince Harry. He came to speak his truth. And we just heard it loud and clear." Harry stopped at the edge of the stage. The silence pressed in. Without turning, he muttered, just loud enough for the boom mic to catch, "This was a mistake." And then he disappeared behind the curtain. Bill exhaled, straightening his notes. "Well," he said dryly, "not exactly the ending I expected." No one laughed. The show had turned into history. But backstage, Harry couldn't move. The weight of it, the humiliation, the eyes, the millions watching, pinned him in place. Pride wouldn't let him leave. One step, then another. He walked back out. Bill's eyes narrowed. Something to add? Harry didn't sit. He stood before the desk, arms crossed, radiating fury. You think you've won something here? He snapped. You sit behind that desk, taking shots at people who've lived more in a year than you'll ever understand. Bill stayed seated, unbothered. Is that what this is? A contest? You humiliated me, Harry barked. You ambushed me and called it an interview. You walked onto this set expecting to be worshipped, Bill said evenly. That's not how this works. You're not in the palace anymore. Harry's voice cracked with anger. I gave up everything for a better life. No, Bill replied coolly. You walked away and dragged the crown through the mud. Then sold the dirt to Netflix. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Harry leaned in. Watch yourself. There it was. The threat, bare and unmistakable. Bill finally stood. His smirk was gone. The tension between them hummed electric. You don't intimidate me, Harry, he said. I've debated presidents, outlasted cancel culture, and survived worse than you. I'm not dangerous, Harry sneered. I'm just done being polite. That much is clear, Bill shot back. But let me be clearer. You're a guest here. You don't get to hijack the show because your ego took a hit. Harry stepped closer, eyes blazing. You're still talking, he hissed. Like I haven't already destroyed your career tonight. You think people will side with you after this? Harry demanded. Bill lifted an eyebrow. I think they just saw who you really are. And it wasn't the hero from your memoir. Silence. No applause, no coughs. Just raw, charged air. From the wings, security began to edge forward, sensing what was coming. Harry's voice dropped, low and dangerous. You think this is over? No, Bill said coolly. I think you're over. He turned toward the cameras. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice steady but sharp. This episode has taken a turn I never anticipated. We invited a guest. What we got was a tantrum. This isn't journalism anymore, it's damage control. And out of respect for this platform, for our audience, and for basic decency, this interview ends here. The studio erupted, not with applause, but disbelief. Harry froze. You can't end it like this. I'm not ending it, Bill shot back. You did 10 minutes ago, the moment you turned this into a royal meltdown. Security reached the stage. Harry turned on them, eyes blazing. Don't touch me. They didn't. Bill's voice softened, but the edge remained. You want privacy? Then leave. You want peace? Try accountability. But if you think you can walk in here, insult everyone, and still demand respect. He pointed toward the curtain. Then it's time you learned that even princes don't get to rewrite the rules here. Harry's jaw clenched. You'll regret this. Bill didn't flinch. I'd regret letting you continue. And that was it. Harry was escorted off. The set. No royal wave, no composure. Just the sound of expensive shoes pounding across a cheap stage floor. As the lights dimmed and the closing theme swelled, Bill faced the camera one last time. I think tonight we learned something simple, he said. A title doesn't make a man, and entitlement doesn't make a point. He paused, gaze steady. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. The screen faded to black, and with it, so did Prince Harry's dignity.